Welcome, everybody. It is National Honeybee Day. All right. So, I didn't realize this. I had a buddy of mine message me yesterday, like, oh, you're going to do your live chat on National Honeybee Day. And I said, didn't we just have one of those? And he's like, seriously, man, you don't know? No, I don't. Well, now I do. But when you're a guy like me, every day is Honeybee Day. So I'm glad that you all are joining me on this another day that is Honeybee Day to me. But it's a day, I guess, to raise awareness to the people who don't absolutely love bees like we do. The first comment is go Buckeyes. Are we going to start the evening that way? Come on now. Thanks everybody for joining. Everyone's starting to pile in. Did you share it, Laurel? Yelling at my wife. I'm going to get in trouble here in a second. All right. Sevierville, Tennessee. That's right down the road from our conference. That's awesome. So lots up. We got a lot of things to cover. I'm going to go ahead and get a bunch of things out of the way before the questions start rolling in. And some of them will actually be questions prior to this chat that I told people I would get to. And also, I'm going to talk about the vendors here in just a second. I have quite the list of vendors who have committed to coming, and I'm really looking forward to telling you about a few of them and the deals that we will have. Now, first of all, we sent all the information to the kids for our Hive Life program, so that's exciting. 26 kids just got an email about 11 p.m. last night or later that they are getting to come and they're going to get custom T-shirts and get to hang out with Bob and weirdos like me, and maybe if their parents will let them and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be a lot of fun getting to meet a bunch of teenagers that love bees just like I do. A lot of people have been asking about speaking engagements because I have not been very good about getting that out. So, really quick, just as a reminder, we'll take a second. September 9th and 8th, I will be in West Virginia. I'm going to be in Arkansas the 23rd and 24th. I will be doing a specific YouTube video linking to these locations and what it actually is, like the organization, that you can meet me there and we can hang out. I always enjoy meeting people that, especially come in on the chat. I'm going to be in Missouri the 14th and the 15th of October. I'll be in Middle Tennessee at the White House TBA thing October 8th. And I will be in Joplin, Missouri, November 12th. And the rest of everything after that is totally Hive Life. So I will have a specific video on that if you guys want to go to one of those dates. All right, Randy Norman, thank you so much for starting the day with or the evening with a donation. We really appreciate you very much for watching our videos and supporting what we do. We have so much stuff in the works to bring you guys some new information. I'm editing the Thorn manufacturing extractor that Gus and I tested out. I was really impressed by a couple things, and there's one or two things that I felt like could be adjusted a little bit. So we talked about that in the video, but so I just got a message from B Original Tim that Greg Burns had storm damage. Keep them in your prayers. Well, I will have to call Greg. He actually is one of our vendors for our conference and a good friend. Ugly, but besides that, he's a great person. How do you have so much time streaming? So this is coming from Zach Heinzelman, who does thousands and thousands of queens and is a professional beekeeper. How do you have time to watch my stream, Zach? And I've got to do these things, man. People have to be kept up to date. It's how I interact and can connect with everybody. It's a lot of fun, and if I did everything I was supposed to, I would not be Kamon Reynolds. That is for darn sure. So sometimes you just got to break the mold. Heck, I've never even tried to get in the mold, stay in the mold once, I don't think. Let's see. Ah, okay. So more people commenting about Greg Burns' storm damage. I'll have to give Greg a call and see how bad it is and see if there's anything that we can do. Oh gosh, this thing just jumped all over the place. Kamon, do you ever attend your state fair? I just don't really have a lot of time for those kind of things. I wish Laurel really wants to go. I do too. But right now, we're sending emails till 1 a.m. in the morning, getting up, working bees throughout the day. Right before this, I was doing work for the research yard, second round of oxalic acid vapor. I dropped about another 100 odd grams of oxalic acid. That sounds a lot worse than it really is. Just don't have time for those kind of things. Not even a little bit. It's really frustrating. But I think if I can get an employee by next year, I can have some more time for fun stuff. I've only I went to the fair several years ago before I got into bees and truck driving. But it looks a lot of fun. Looks like a lot of fun. All right, Bandit says, got your tickets for Hive Life. And by the way, we are almost 70% of the way full on ticket registration. So we just opened registration last year. This was the time that we opened up registration. We're already 70% of the way booked up. So, or you need to make sure that if you are wanting to come, you need to kind of get on that in the next month or two. Go ahead, Laurel. What? All right, Michael Palmer's on. Sweet. All right. Evening, Michael. Thanks for coming on. We thank you for all that you do up there in Vermont. Hope that you get some good fall weather and winter's good for you. All that kind of stuff. Is your fall flow starting up there? So we're just now starting to see a little bit of ironweed, a little bit of goldenrod, not a whole lot. The pollen baskets are maybe 30% of the size that you'd see on a good pollen flow. They're kind of sparse looking pollen baskets, but it's a whole lot better than nothing. All right. So yes, 26 kids, full rides. They're super excited to get to come, and it was a really fun getting to see all of those kids. And one of the messages that I sent each one of those kids is, "Hey, thanks for applying for this. This opportunity you wouldn't have had it if you wouldn't have taken a chance." And the reason I say that, and I let them know there were parents that I talked to that their kids wanted to come, but they weren't willing to. They were too embarrassed to do the short YouTube video, and it was private. I mean, I was the only one I think that watched them. However, it was embarrassing, and I understand it's hard to do that kind of stuff. I remember being a kid and my dad kind of forcing me to do some stuff I wasn't very comfortable with. But I kind of told him, this is, if you want to be a good beekeeper, if you want to be able to be somebody that's going to do new things and great things, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and do hard things. And so I'm excited to meet all the young ladies and young men that are coming, and some really good entries this year. It was really hard saying no to anybody, but gosh, I'm really excited about the kids that we have this year. I say kids, a lot of them are 16, 17, 18, 14, young adults, really. All right. People's questions. So here's a question that I had from Ed Gooch. Hello, Cayman. I've been watching your videos and live chats for a while. Looks like you and the family are doing good. It's been a good year for me. I've learned a lot this year, but lessons have been hard and a little expensive. Part of learning. I know that feeling. I'm going to retire before too long, and I'm going to try to make a small business next year. He put business, so I see that play on words. I'm trying to figure that out. Any pointers or good sources for doing that? So great question. This is one that I had to ask myself, and I asked this question to other people, and I really think beekeeping can be a very good business, especially if you're not going for like full throttle. If you're retired, you want to make some side income. It's something that people want. It's something that people need to do. And as long as you can produce the goods, you can sell them. Um, in most places, there's a few exceptions. I know in some areas where there's a lot of commercial beekeeping presence that it can be a little bit more difficult to get the prime prices many smaller beekeepers want for their honey. However, most of us don't experience that. What I would say is everything that you're focused on now and over the next year or two, building up to whatever that number is, if that's 20 hives for you, if that's 50 hives, whatever it is, focus on the long term. And I'm really thinking woodenware. So boxes. I know in my personal experience, when I first got into beekeeping, there was some of these internet gurus, and I won't say their names on here, but they're well known, that were going, don't paint your equipment. The wood's got to breathe. And it was like my second year of beekeeping. And I'm thinking, well, this person's obviously smarter than me. So I didn't paint any of my equipment. The first year I did. Those boxes lasted 5, 10 times longer. And now the boxes that I have are lasting even longer. So I would recommend either one, doing some copper napathate like a Bob Benny does, and then painting over them. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. Or get some wax dip boxes or something like that. We'll have them at a very affordable price at our conference. By the way, they'll be like commercial pricing for even hobby beekeepers, assembled wax dip, and it's worth it. Get it done right the first time. A well sealed box, painted, copper napped, um, wax dip can last you a couple decades. Could you imagine being able to get woodenware right now for what it was 20 years ago? I mean, right now, Man Lake's charging like $25 for an unassembled box. 20 years ago, if Michael Palmer's still on, I bet he could probably tell you what boxes cost 20 years ago. It definitely wasn't anything like we're paying now. So make your equipment last. And then all that's great, but your bees have to be healthy. Take the extra time. If you can only manage 10 hives at a high level, do it. Don't do 20. Focus on what you can do and do it at a very high level. Keep those mites low and expect 30% losses each year throughout the entire year. You might get that in winter. You might only get 15% in winter if you do a good job, or 10%, but then you might lose some throughout the season. It's very normal. I've lost several colonies over the last month or so. Queen issues. I say lost. We've had to combine them back to other colonies and then make splits later. But that we account for that. We expect to lose bees. We expect to need new queens. It's part of being sustainable is the regeneration of splitting and young queens. Plan on it and crush those mites. Don't ever let them build up to high populations. Don't wait to the end of the year. Control them throughout the season. Control them before the honey flow, right after the honey flow, whenever your season allows. Control them. Do those things, and you will make honey, and you will have nukes that you can sell, and you can be profitable. You can. Is it the easiest way to be profitable? No, but you totally can do it. All right. I will get to everybody's questions here in just a second. So T Hill Tony says, Kamon, will you be in VA or MD anytime soon? I guess West Virginia isn't too far. No, I won't be. I think I'll be in Virginia next year. Not this year, just West Virginia. All right, scrolling through. All right, Gainesville, Georgia. Went to visit Bob Benny yesterday. I was on the phone with Bob the other day. He's such a cool guy. Very cool, very knowledgeable. Do solar wax melters need a minimum temp? I'm typically at 60 degrees, San Francisco. Well, if your solar wax melter is doing a good job and it's heating up and retaining heat, you want like a heat sink in there, things that will absorb that heat. And if you can have something like stainless steel on the inside that'll kind of reflect that heat around, and that's nice too. But beeswax melts, what is it, 140 something degrees Fahrenheit? So it needs to be able to get pretty hot in there. And plus, you prefer to have it quite a bit over that because that propolis and pupil casings is not going to want to release all of that wax unless it gets really hot. So you're typically 60 degrees. In your summer months, you're still 60 degrees in San Francisco? Let's see. Let's see. I've been treating with Apogard Timol and had a hive abscond. Do you ever have a problem with that? I've used it for years, Mac Bee Buzzin'. I just applied it to every colony in this treatment yard. I've applied it to whole yards of 40 to 50 colonies at a time. And the only time I've ever had an issue with that was a weak colony or I applied too much on, again, a small colony. I've even applied 50 grams over the temperature limit. Bees don't, excuse me, like it. They'll beard quite a bit, but it does work. So I really don't have a lot of absconding issues. It's really only when I do something to a small colony, in my experience. I would never use anything like Apogard when I had a swarm or a package or anything like that until the colony is really balanced and has a good bit of brood. Everything needs to be together. When you use any of these treatments that are gassing off and disrupting pheromones and all that stuff, if the colony is kind of on the ropes, these things can be enough to push them over the edge. They work really good on colonies that are really running at a very high level. Weak colonies, these things are a little rougher on, but that's with most anything. So that might be that situation. I don't know the colony situation. Cameron Martin says, Cayman, first live chat from Goshen, Indiana. I'm a first year beekeeper. Just pulled my supers. I washed and treated for mites today. Awesome. So you are a first year beekeeper and you're already washing and treating for mites. I can't tell you how exciting that makes me because 20 years ago, I was a new beekeeper and everybody that was around here, we didn't ever wash. Nobody did. Most of us didn't even treat. And what we did use wasn't working and we just didn't know it. Things are changing so fast and I'm excited for you all. And I'm excited that many of you are already choosing to really go to a high level with your bees early on because it's going to take a couple years to get things going, get some ground speed. But what you're going to do in 2 or 3 years, what took me 9 or 10 years, because you're already thinking this way, and because of that, you're going to make more honey. You'll be more successful. Make some more splits. Zach Heinzelman, somehow listening to the Gab passes the time in the bee yard. Touche. Gosh. Hey, Cayman, I know you have used 33 grams of Apogard for 3 weeks in a row, but have you tried 20 grams and high temps for 5 weeks? No, I never have. Dropping down to 25 grams is as small as I've ever done. And whenever I drop to 25 grams, it's not like on a smaller colony that's maybe like 7 or 8 frames of bees and do that 3 rounds. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for donating and coming back into our live chat. If you have a question, make sure you leave it down below and I will try to see it and get to it. We appreciate you very much. Does community feeding promote pest and disease? It can. Lots of variables here. And I've just got to say that there are guys that I know that do it. It's illegal in some states to do that, but I know guys that do that all the time. Ian Stepler, open feeds bees. Darn good looking bees, even in rough years. I know other guys that do that as well. And it can work. My biggest concern with it, even maybe more than disease, I mean, disease is a big issue, but I would be afraid if I open fed and I had another beekeeper nearby that maybe they haven't pulled their honey supers yet. And I could be getting sugar syrup into their honey supers. So if you know of any beekeepers nearby, just kind of coordinate with them. Maybe they haven't pulled their supers yet. All right. So a lot of people piling in, a lot of first timers in here. It's awesome. I have 10 hives this year. They are stronger than they have ever been. My bees generally are gentle. However, as I'm feeding them a little less than 1-to-1 sugar water during this dearth, they are angry. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. So right now, I just got stung on my nose day before. No, that was yesterday. So as you can see, not a whole lot of reaction there. It's taken me 20 years to get to this point. However, I'm very thankful for that. 20 years ago, I'd be like, hey, everybody, how's it going? but my bees are aggressive, and why are they? About a week ago, I had the Columbia Area Beekeepers Association up, the president and several of the members. They came up and helped me wash all the colonies up here for the research yard. It's about 15,000 bees that we went through and counted. Uh, I cannot remember how many mites it was. Richard is taking care of all the data on that, so it actually gets compiled and done correctly. And anyhow, we roughed them up, just going through them. We were trying to be gentle, but you have to go through each colony and shake out bees and take samples and all that kind of stuff. Well, then we got the information. I came back in a few days later and went ahead and fed them. I went as we went through every colony. I checked and saw where were we on feed levels, and several of them were really good, but some of them needed some feed bad. Some of them so much that I gave them 2 gallons of 1-to-1. I really like those mother load feeders. I can fit a lot in there. So, and I also fed them a half pound of pollen patty each and dropped the first round of treatments for the test yard. So that's 2 times that I was in them between dropping the treatments and then testing. And now I'm going on the second round of treatments a week later, and I'm constantly in them, right? I also mowed by them a few days ago. If you're constantly messing around your bees and stirring them up, my bees are normally very gentle. I can walk outside, no issues. That bee stung me right on the nose, and that was because I've roughed them up. And because the old bees remember that to a degree, it's not like they remember my face, I don't think, but old bees only live so long. And it seems like whenever I do an event like this, it takes a couple weeks for those bees, those old bees to die off and things to settle back down. Now, I have gentle bees, pretty gentle bees, and your bees might be a lot more aggressive. So I really don't know, but disturbing them, mowing around them, a lot of things can set bees off. Michael Palmer says goldenrod started up today. Well, awesome. I haven't got back into any of the queens that I got from you, Michael, because I usually let my queens lay for about 10 days or more before I, jump back in them. A lot of times introduce them, give them about a gallon of 1-to-1, and come back 10 days, 14 days later, whatever it is, and see where we're at. But looking forward to that inspection. It's always hard. That's another tip I'll throw out to everybody is as a young beekeeper, it's hard. With queens though, give them time to lay. If it's a queen cell, if it's a queen introduction, don't be any rush. Don't disturb them and don't put a lot of smelly stuff in there either. I'm not a big fan of putting essential oils and feeds while the queen's introduced. We want nothing. It needs to be dark. It needs to be quiet. I don't even like mowing around my bees when I'm doing a lot of queen stuff, if I can help it. I just like that transition to be real smooth. Let the queen lay for a minimum of a week before you disturb her. And a lot of times wait 10 to 14 days because if you do that, it's not going to hurt anything. It's going to be good. It's going to help lock her in with the colony. And any of them that weren't going to that were going to get killed anyways and it didn't work out, all the ones that didn't work out, that was going to happen anyhow. And now you know which colonies for sure to combine with the ones that were successful, and you're golden. At least that's the way I do it. All right, get into more questions. Hey, Kamon, I'm from Missouri. I had a couple post flow swarm splits, and as soon as the queen came back and started laying, they made new queen cells. What causes that? Ooh, well, there's a lot of things I don't know about these kind of things, but I would say it could be she didn't get mated properly. How balanced is the colony after that swarm? Is there still a decent bit of brood and bees in there? Where are they weak? Why are they wanting to raise more queens? Is it a second? No, it can't be a secondary swarm. She's come back and laying. That's unless they're really packed. I'd have to see the conditions, but to be honest, there are some times you just scratch your head when it comes to queens. So here's an example. One of the reasons I hate swarming so much is because sometimes it's not just one swarm. If I send off a primary swarm, which is the first swarm, that's usually a big bunch of bees, 4 or 5, sometimes more pounds of bees shooting out of that colony. But if it's early on in the flow, And that's the only time they swarm and a queen comes back. A lot of times I'll still make a honey crop off of that colony. It just won't be near as big as what it could have been. It'll still be, maybe like 60, 80 pounds if it's a really good year. But that's if they don't swarm again. Sometimes they secondary swarm and all the brood is emerged by and large at that point, and all the virgins that were in the cells will emerge out of their cells and they take off, and now there's almost nothing left. They've taken with that secondary, sometimes even a third swarm. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to queen behavior and bee behavior, and I am not an expert when it comes to that. Whenever we see a swarm starting, we break them down. If they're already capped and it's long in the tooth on the swarming process, we try to find the queen. If we can't find her, we just break them up and we just take our losses there because I don't like sending bees off to the woods. That's just my personal way of dealing with it. And so Craig Midget is on tonight, and I've got to say thanks, Craig, for the honey swap. Got a pound of your honey, and it is really good. So this comes from Colombia. I've got a jar of another guy in the Columbia area, Barry Brown, which you can see the kids have gotten into this one quite a bit. Both of these I've tried and are very delicious, and they taste quite a bit different, even though they're in the same area. Interesting, right? And when I went to Gus Mitchell's place and helped him extract a couple 100 gallons of honey, I got some cotton honey, and he'll tell you there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't have a lot of flavor to me. It's very sweet, and that's about it. Honestly, you could probably fool somebody this is sugar syrup, but it's not quite that bland, but it is very, very sweet with very little floral hints. He's got all kinds of irrigated cotton and soy being in that area. Very interesting how they're still making honey, and I'm feeding my bees. Hey, Laurel. All right. Kamon, some of my hives had one mite in the wash. Would you treat it or wait using formic acid to treat? Hey, White's a twin tree farm. If I've only got one mite in the wash, I'm not dropping formic acid on that. If you have some a gentler treatment, maybe you already have some, I don't know, oxalic acid that you use for vaporization. If you want to kind of, keep it low, you can do that. But I don't know. Okay, Andy White. So you're in the deep South, Oklahoma, if I remember. Yeah, tea, please. And just kind of keep an eye on it. There's a lot of brooding season left for you. It sounds like that hive's in a really good condition, but I'm not dropping a full dose of formic acid for a less than half a mite infestation. It's just too rough on the bees. So I am way behind on questions. Goodness gracious. I got to say a huge thank you again to Smitty's Chainsaws for again donating towards what we're doing. It's like I do a lot of brush and clearing work. I get a bad headache from multiple stings, really bad. Any suggestions? It sucks. Love the content. Keep it up. Thank you so much. So you get a lot of stings while clearing brush and stuff. If you're getting headaches from it, that's pretty rough. The only thing I can tell you to do is wear a bee suit. But if you're using something like a chainsaw or some type of you know blade that's moving, a loose bee suit with a blade like that sounds like an accident waiting to happen. Have to be really careful. I really don't know. I don't know of anything that you can put on that's not a bee suit or something like that that would prevent you from getting stung. Um, It's funny because bee stings I'm pretty used to now, but whenever I get stung by like a hornet or a wasp or a bumblebee, I got stung by a bumblebee. It built up in one of my mating nukes, and I was pulling it out for the season. And we carefully put them back because I do really like bumblebees. But gosh darn it, it got me right on the knuckle, and that thing itched for like a week. It's the worst part. Bee stings used to make me itch. Thank goodness they don't anymore. All right. Thank you, Laurel. And I've got a pretty awesome mug right here from Rainey McCaffrey, the Dirt Rooster channel. Okay. I'm a new beekeeper this year and started with 3 nukes and I cut and made them fit into my lay-in hives. I built 427 frame insulated hives. I caught 2 wild swarms. I now have 5 colonies. Hey, Russell, that's really awesome to hear. I'm really proud for you. Keep up the good work. I don't really know much about laying hives, but I get asked this question a lot. Cayman, do you think they work? I'm confident you can make them work. That's one of the reasons I do the videos on the horizontal hives. It's more about the condition of the bees in the box. In extreme climates, there are more factors, but in most places you can make, well, heck, here in Tennessee, I've seen bees overwinter in tires, tractor tires. So that they didn't have any bottom boards or anything like that. We have a lot of rain for winter too. Hey, Amanda Brown, looking forward to Hive Life 2023. We appreciate your help last year and the help that you've offered this year. Don't remember box prices. Queens were $7. Queens were $7. Wow. I would like some $7 queens. That would be nice. All right. So I want to talk about oxalic acid, Randy Oliver's towels that we're doing at the experimental yard this year. I'm going to get to that here in just 1 second. I promised one thing first. So, Cayman, are they going to have any wax dip shallows? Alan Wheeler. Hey, Alan, if you email um, Appalachian Hivery, I bet this early in the game they probably would. I know they don't plan on doing that they're not planning on it, but if you needed more than one or two and you gave them a heads up, I bet they could do that. Don't hold me to it. Hey, Jim Ladd, thank you so much for donating to our channel yet again. We appreciate you very much. So let me get to the vendors. I know a lot of people have been asking me about who's coming to the Hive Life conference, and man, I've got some exciting ones to share with you. So, starting up towards the top, I've talked about this quite a bit. Premier Foundation is going to be there. They use A.H. Myers capping wax for their foundation. They're going to be doing 20% off for all orders. If you need 20 sheets, 20% off. That's like 35 cents off per sheet for a hobby beekeeper. And people are like, well, if I buy 1,000, I can get 20% off on the website, but you have to pay for shipping. You don't have to pay for shipping at the Hive Life conference. So that's one thing you can save money on. And thanks to Premier Foundation for partnering up with us and giving us a killer price for everybody at the conference. We're also going to have a commercial pricing with mother load. So if you need frame feeders or any of their other products, I'll be doing a video on some of their newer products in the near future. Very excited about mother load as a company. The new guy running it is young and very creative and super excited to change a lot of things in the industry. I'm looking forward to that company. So we got Hilco coming as well. So that's Motherload Premier. We have Bohemia Apiary. So that's Jason Crook. He's got a YouTube channel and does a lot of cool stuff. We have John Sullivan with Southeast Bee Supply. We have Anel from Greece. We have Savan coming all the way in from Turkey. We have several smaller beekeepers that are coming in and do smaller projects. I won't name all of them because there's a lot of them. There's Bailey Bee Supply. There's Miller Bee Supply. They came last year. They make all of their boxes and all of their frames. I'm a huge fan of their woodenware equipment. It's really nice. And we have several good companies that do woodenware equipment. Wax dip boxes, Appalachian Hivery is doing semi-load pricing. Wax dipped, assembled, take it home. Wax dip boxes can last decades. And these are cooked for 20 minutes to the specifications that I was using when I made mine. This is a company out of Salina. The Garden Apiary will be there. Pigeon Mountain Trading, Midnight Bee Supply, Better Bee. Man, need to drink some of this tea. Miller Bees Manufacturing, Whiskey Trail Bees, Pierce Beekeeping Equipment, a USA company in California, Brood Minder, Bee Creek Farms, Vita Bee Health. They are the ones that make ApiGuard and other products like that. We have Foxhound Bee Supply. Apame will be there again. The Bee Apothecary. Rossman Apiaries. Got to say a big thank you to them again. They donated $2,000 to the Kid Scholarship Program. So at least 4 of the kids that are able to come and get full rides are there because of Rossman. Hidden Hollow Honey. Hives for Heroes will be there as well as one of our guests. Texas Bee Supply, B3, West Alabama Bee Company, 777 Apiary, Hive IQ from Australia will be there. They've got a really interesting polystyrene hive. I've never seen one quite like it. We're going to have Bees Needs. We're going to have Nods. That's Formic Pro, Dogwood Ridge, Comfort Pro Suits, the Bee Commander, Hive Alive, Thorn Manufacturing with a full line of USA made extractors made in Wisconsin. Nature's Image Farm. So Greg, the guy who's gotten all the bad weather, he'll be there as long as the weather didn't blow all the stuff away. I hope you're all right, Greg. Oxavap, Larabi Vaporizer, Be Smart Designs, Riverwood Inc., Rock Bridge Trees, Easy Loader, like the loaders Ian uses, that's going to be there. Wickwas Press, Cowan Manufacturing. So I'm pretty excited about this one. Cowan makes all the commercial systems. Well, they're going to be at our conference and they're going to have a new product that nobody's ever seen before at our conference. So I'm really excited about Cowan being there. There's going to be several more strong microbials and others. There's several more companies. So we've got a huge list of who's going to be there. And I am brokering deals. We've just begun on the deal front. If you buy a decent bit of bee equipment, you will pay for your ticket and the savings. Back to questions, and hopefully this tea is cool enough. Barely. And I know I've been talking about other things, so if I missed your questions, drop them down below, and I will try to get to them on the second round. Kamon, I wish we could send you pictures of our bees in a live chat. You know what? That would be cool, and maybe one of these days we can figure out how to do that. I'll have to talk to people who know tech stuff. All right. I promised I would talk about Randy Oliver's OAE, so oxalic acid extended release. Todd Prater, Kamon, if you can comment on your OAE treatment, how did you prepare the strips? How much OA to glycerin did you use? Did you cut the sponges in half or in quarters? How many strips per hive? So I'm talking to Dick Brickner quite a bit. He's the guy that helps me and do the data. We all have our strengths, and well, Richard, he's like a walking encyclopedia. No, he's so awesome. So let me go over this really quick. You can do the towels, the shop towels. I'm really not going to talk about them much. I prefer the sponges for multiple reasons. First of all, because the towels, a lot of times they're very hard to get out of the colony once you want to get them out, and you have to scrape up a bunch of different pieces. Keep in mind that this is not legal to do. We have EPA exemption to use these for non-honey production colonies. However, it is my hope that, like New Zealand, the country can get an exemption to make your own, because we do need more tools in the toolbox. And I think the goal with these things is a helpmate, so to speak, throughout the season, not maybe a stay one type of treatment, but I doubt it. I think it's going to be more of still use your thiamol, but use this in conjunction. And when your thiamol comes in to clean things up, or whatever your main product is, Formic, it's not going to be knocking down 3%, 2%, 4% infestations. It's knocking down 1% infestations, which makes it so much easier. And your bees are so much healthier because you can definitely tell when those mite percentages get up. So, talking sponges, the maximizer pads and the Swedish sponges, the Wettex, so WETTEX sponges. If you're wanting to make 9 treatments, so that's actually, you cut them in half, so that's 18 rectangles of about this big sponges. So you cut them in half, so there's 18 half, so that'd be 9 hive treatments. You'll want to heat up the mixture to about 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, so it mixes in really good and it'll soak into those sponges well. And you want to make sure that the OA and the glycerin is blended well. That's vegetable glycerin. And in order to make those 9 treatments, you will use 1 pound of oxalic acid and you will use 1 pound of vegetable glycerin. That's 50 grams of glycerin and 50 grams of oxalic acid per 2 strips. So per treatment, um, which that is what Randy is using right now. I have not used this and taken data. So I'm interested to see how that works. They're already on the hives. Our goal is to come back in late September. We know what the mites have been doing. We took samples in June 4th. We took samples last week. Now we've applied them. Hopefully, we'll get some good results. But so that's the information I have on that. For those of you who are wanting a lot more information on this, more than I can give you, just go to scientificbeekeeping.com. Randy Oliver is the extended release guru. I will be having more videos on this in the future as time allows. So Happy Acre says, I'll take 20 bee stings over 1 wasp or hornet sting. I know it, right? Especially if it's those big hornets, like those European hornets. Whoo, it's like a 1/4 inch stinger on those suckers. So yeah, a lot of questions on the Swedish sponge treatment working out. It just went on, so we're gonna see. I don't really know yet. Ooh, got stung on the inside of the nose. I've got stung right on the inside of that bridge of the nose, and whoo, very tender. Up here is not so bad. One of the worst places I think to get stung is that cartilage right there. You would not think that that would hurt so bad. Maybe it's because it can't swell up or something. That about turned me inside out. That hurt. That and getting stung in the quick of the fingernail, those two are my least favorite. Man, those hurt. Make a grown man cry. So, Salty Bee, how do you treat an Apame hive with oxalic acid without melting the plastic? You really can't. That I know of. Besides, if you're wanting to use Larabi's vaporizer, you can get their tray, and it works, I believe, only with their original vaporizer. However, what I'm doing with the Instant Vap, which is just, by the way, awesome, awesome. I love that thing. It's expensive, but it is awesome. I just what I'll do is I'll put a wooden box on. And so if I got a double deep, I'll put a wooden box on with a hole drilled in it and I will just hook it into that. And that's how I do my Apame hives right now is just put a wooden box on top with a hole drilled in and that works. It's not my ideal way of doing it, but I don't want to melt the plastic either. Hmm. All right. One thing I wanted to talk about, someone asked me a question in the YouTube comments of one of my videos recently about how we should be treating. And I've said this before, so I'll say it real quick. I believe we should start thinking about treatments more in shorter periods, not 21-day periods. It's not that you don't think about that, but your capped brood is in a less than 13-day period. So from wow. So from the time that they cap the brood to the time the bee emerges is 13 days max, typically under that. So that's where most of the mites are. So if we can get a really big kill on the phoretic mites and then hammer that tight window, then we're in good shape. I believe this is why for Apagard's original dosage, you do 50 grams 2 weeks apart. So it's supposed to cover like 14 days. And then after that 14 days, you apply another 50 grams again. So they're wanting to really hammer over that capped brood period. However, temperatures, you have to use smaller dosage. But I think with oxalic acid vapor, we should definitely be thinking in tighter windows of treatment. It's a real big pain in the rear end. I just, I've done 200 and something grams of oxalic acid in the last couple of days, and it's getting old, very old. Yeah, Cold Creek Honey says Better Be. Yes, absolutely. Better Be is coming this year. And over $30,000 of license extraction equipment. So Cowan, Lyson, Hilco's got extraction equipment. Thorn Manufacturing's got extraction equipment. We are going to have Sitvon extraction equipment, SAF extraction equipment, anything that you want within reason. And if you actually start getting that squeaky wheel going with these companies, you probably can get even more. Get them to come on out to the conference. Let them know though, because we are 70 something percent filled up on vendor space right now. Man Lake has not gotten back to me. Dadent has. They just did. So Dadent will be there too. They have not filled out the form yet. The two biggest companies in the country, you'd think they'd be a little bit more on top of these things. Not. Cameron Martin, thank you so much, Cameron, and appreciate you coming on and joining us this evening. How many hives do you typically lose a year? Thanks. All right. So, I don't keep real meticulous records. I expect 30% losses throughout the season. Does that mean I want that? Absolutely not. And a lot depends on the years. If I do some good work, we have a good fall flow. It doesn't have to be like we're making honey, but just where our bees get plenty of nutrition. I've had years where I've lost 5% over the winter. That's great. I've had years where I've lost 8% over the winter. That's awesome. Does that mean all of them are coming out of winter still, though, like busting through their boxes and needing to be split? No. A lot of that comes down to, do they have a young queen? Do they go into winter with a big cluster? What are the mite loads? Are they getting chewed up all winter long on mites? What's the nutrition? Do they have excess? Bees know what they have and will brood accordingly to the reserves that they know they have above them. I love to see at least 40 pounds of honey on any decent sized colony minimum. So at least a medium's worth of capped or close to capped honey per box. If it's a big colony, if it's 5 frame nukes, a little different story. But if it's a 8 to 10 frame colony of bees or greater, it needs to have a medium's worth of food on it at all times. And that makes a big difference. And we need to be building up our bees for the fall flow, not during the fall flow, before the fall flow. My bees right now, I'm trying to keep them from swarming here at my house because we've babied them so much, maybe a little bit too much. Might start getting entitled and expect just handouts. And I'm joking. Bees aren't like that. They will just keep going after it. So as far as all that goes, just feed. I expect 30% losses. Queen issues are a big one. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. Sometimes a queen just runs out of gas. Sometimes a good queen swarms on you and a daughter does not come back. I expect 30% losses. However, if I have 100 colonies and I lose 10%, let's say 15% through winter, do a good job. 15%, that's still good. I have 85 colonies. Let's see, out of the 85, 75 of them are good, real good. I can triple those. No problem. Make honey, make a nuke, then split them at the end of the flow. And so then I'm going to lose some throughout the season, but I'm gaining ground, lots of ground. And I think some years I can do even better than that. But that's part of the sustainability of beekeeping. You must expect those losses and you must be prepared. If you have too many bees, sell them. It's easy. Let's see here. Just got back from a get together with local beekeepers here in Connecticut. 19th of August is the day of the beekeeper for us in Ukraine. Ah, okay. Well, I hope that things are going to be getting better for beekeepers in Ukraine very soon. Okay, so getting through some questions, trying not to get the ones that sound very similar. Got to say thank you to LA. Thank you very much. I've tried everything to get my bees to build out their new hive this year, but they won't expand past 6 frames. Fed protein and carbs, and darn, this thing jumped on me. Water beetle traps, but they won't expand. What gives? All right, I know this feeling. I had a colony this year that just wouldn't build up. And I knew what the problem was at this point, but in the past, you just kind of let them go, let them go. Maybe things will, get fixed and all that kind of jazz. Either that queen stinks or there is a mite virus or disease going on in that colony. That does not, a good queen should be much bigger than that. Especially, it sounds like you're putting a lot of work into them. But a poor queen will not do anything special ever. You could have no mites, you could have all the nutrition in the world, and you're like, well, why don't they requeen her then? Like I said before, queen issues and bee issues, there's some things that we just don't understand why. Because there are some bees, as soon as that queen, yeah, she'll be doing a pretty good job and they'll still supersede her. They're like, you know what? You were doing 100% last month. You're only doing 92% this month. We're canning you. And you're like, it's a good hive. It doesn't matter. They kill her and they'll requeen her. Some colonies don't kill her, raise a daughter, she kills her, and then she goes on a mating flight. Sometimes the daughter doesn't kill the original mother, she goes off, and then you end up with two queens in the colony laying at the same time. And sometimes they kill the queen, um, nothing comes back, and you're in big trouble. And then in your case, it could be that queen really stinks, and they're those bees that they're just going to ride it out all the way down to death's door. So, what I would do in your situation, LA, is to determine, is there a disease problem? Is there European foul brood? Is there mites or viruses? Usually, those a lot of times go in tandem. And if it's not any of those things, you're like, well, there's plenty of nutrition, everything looks good. It's a queen issue. And some queens just can't get it done. This is a lot of the reason why I recommend people make splits. If you don't want to kill a queen, you got to plan on queen issues are my number two reason for loss. And if I do a good job with mites, they're my number one reason for loss in my bee yard. So in order to counteract that, we have to make splits. We need those young queens coming to the operation as old queens run out of gas. We can requeen them. If we don't want to kill an old queen, then we take the old queen, make a small split with her, put the new awesome queen in the production colony, and boom. So that was a long-winded answer, but beekeeping's complicated. Philip says, just verified the Ultra Breeze does sell replacement hoods. Great company. I do like my Ultra Breeze suit. Kamon, I'm planning on coming down to Hive Life, but I had a few questions. Is there an email address I can direct them to? Yes, hivelifeconference@gmail.com for conference-related questions. I'm going to type that down below. And for those of you who maybe don't know what the conference is, you can go to hivelifeconference.com and see who's speaking this year and what's going on. A lot more to be updated on that as time allows. All right, there we go. All right. Gosh, I'm way behind on questions. Yes. Hey, Pappy's Bees. Yeah, don't forget to hit that like button. Yeah, that really does help us out quite a bit. Every video, hitting the like button helps out tremendously. Cayman, last question. Any updates on rocket fuel? So far, I like it, but I'm still not finished. So I would say probably by September, late September, I should have a good idea on what I like. I have several, like dozens of company products I'm testing right now, and it's all exciting, but I really try to be careful because I'm not a perfect person, and I really try to verify what I'm using as a decent product before I share it, especially because a lot of people listen to what I say for better or for worse. I try to make it for the better, and I don't want to cost anybody any money that will not benefit them and their bees. So my gut tells me that the rocket fuel is going to be some good stuff. Do you have to have it? Absolutely not. I've survived 20 years without it. However, does it give us an edge? I think it might. So we'll have to see. I really I think I'll have a good inkling of what it will be like here in a couple weeks, but I also want to try it coming out of winter and see if I think that could really give us a clear picture on those bees that are kind of like, I want to come out of winter super fast, hit them with the Canadian rocket fuel and see what happens. Which, but for those of you who don't know, Canadian rocket fuel is not Kraken eggnogs that Ian drinks. It is Apis Biologics. Is this product right here? It's like one of the last packets that I have, and it is full of acids and, oh gosh, big words like phytohormone profiles and the concentrations and proportions found naturally in nectar. It's basically a supplement that mimics nectar, which is interesting that most of the products that we have out there for syrup didn't even try to mimic nectar in the first place. Interesting. So you can fly into TYS. I see people flying into Nashville, and that's great. I'm sure there's a lot of variables on where and where you cannot fly into, but you can fly into Knoxville if that's cost effective for you, or fly into Nashville. Atlanta's not too far away too, but who wants to go into Atlanta? Um, yeah. So Jamie learned I treat with Formic Pro, and 2 weeks later my mite counts were off the charts. Why? Well, I've heard of some issues with some people saying Formic wasn't getting it done for them. However, when I was talking to Formic Pro about their product, they say so our product not only kills the mites that are on the bees, but it also penetrates the wax and goes into the cell and kills some of the mites in there, and also affects the reproduction. So some of the mites, if you had a crazy high mite load, Jamie, some of those mites that you're seeing, they might be sterile. They might not be. But if you're still seeing a lot of mites, I would consider maybe dropping something else too, just to be safe. Oxalic acid vapor, something. Sounds like you have a lot of mites, but Formic Pro is known to sterilize some mites. To what extent, I have no clue, and I'm not a huge user of Formic Pro just due to its temperature sensitivities. All right, so the Knoxville airport is really small, but it is close to the conference. It's also got a waterfall in it, or like a little water area. It's really gorgeous. I flew to Maryland from Knoxville. Cayman, add people to your live stream and they could show pictures on your live stream. Ask Lee. Okay. I may look into that. Gosh, I'm behind. Mm-mm. Okay, I'm scrolling to the bottom. Going to try to get caught up on these recent ones. And if you guys, if I missed your question, just drop it down below. So, what company made the rocket fuel? Yeah, that would be Apis Biologics. So, that is a Canadian company. They will be at the conference too. What I am told, they haven't signed up yet, but I also need to get back with them. So, yeah, it'll be exciting to see Cowan there. So, if you guys could do me a favor, if you know any commercial beekeeping buddies that are wanting to get stuff in bulk, whether that's solid plastic frames, loaded wooden frames with foundation, need wooden boxes, need a full Cowan extraction line, let them know that's a possibility. It costs thousands of dollars, many thousands, to ship out a Cowan extraction line. If you need a Silver Queen or any type of, if you know anyone that needs anything Cowan, let them know, because I would love to see more Cowan stuff at our conference, and they definitely make some very cool equipment. Yeah, so first, Don left a comment down below about Formic, talking to Tom Nolan at the Hive Life conference. And yes, one treatment they say is not sufficient to do a good job of cap penetration if you do one at a time. So I don't know if you did 2 pads, Jamie, or if you did 1 pad. All right. Can any of the locals tell me how the drive from Sevierville to North Carolina is during January? We are visiting family after the conference. Well, we had that big snow this last year, and that's very unusual. However, at Sevierville, we got a quarter of an inch. We didn't hardly get anything. Now, typically in January, we don't have snow. Occasionally, you can get some, maybe occasionally an ice storm, but it's more missing than hitting. Of course, now that I've said that, we'll have it. but usually the driving's not bad at all. Usually they'll say, "Oh, we're fixing to get snow," and we get a dusting and a little bit of salt and no issues. But I'm not a local, but typically driving to that area is very good. My wife is from that area and is very familiar. And I had to drive out there to go get her. I mean, it was a lot of work getting Laurel. I don't know if you guys know the story behind that. I don't really have time to explain it here. It would take quite a while, but Laurel, I mean, getting her to say yes was it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. I'm a good salesman though. Hmm. Actually, that wasn't the problem. I was trying to sell me to her parents. That was the trick. I was a wild man, at least in their mind. I guess they haven't met a whole lot of guys my age. I'm an old soul, I think. All right. So let's see. I have got to take a little bit of a honey shot here. My voice is just, I've filmed other videos today, been on the phone, all that jazz. One second. If Natalie Summers is watching and she's going to pick on my eating habits, I'm going to do it off the camera real quick. That is the good stuff right there. Barry, you got some good honey. Boy, that is good. Would you post your formula for acid drip? Dave, I really haven't done dribble in a while, and I cannot tell you right off the top of my head. I don't have it memorized. However, you can go to scientificbeekeeping.com. Randy Oliver does have a chart for that, and it will definitely help you out, get your dosage just right. I prefer mixing oxalic acid with glycerin for dribble and not using the sugar syrup solution. It does cost a little bit more. I believe it's easier on the bees. Yeah, Gus, it sounds like Skipper Luttrell will be at the Hive Life too. I must have missed that one. I've got an Excel spreadsheet and it's hard for me to read all of it off. And like I said earlier, the conference is 70% full. So anybody that's wanting to come needs to get their tickets pretty soon. What are your thoughts about adding probiotics into your feed when feeding? So, up until recently, I didn't know of any probiotics for bees for liquid feeding. However, the strong microbials did make a different delivery system where you could mix their probiotics into a sugar syrup. Personally, if I was going to use a probiotic, I want it in sugar syrup. I don't want to have to go in and dust and feed. So that saves me a lot of work right there. Even if it was a little bit more expensive, I would go that route. I haven't really invested even a dime into probiotics for my bees. Maybe I should. I'm still kind of playing the waiting game. A lot of the professional guys that I know don't use it. And we're talking guys with 5, 10, 12, 15,000 colonies, 2,000 colonies. If they don't need it for their big operations, I feel like I don't need it for my small pro operation. And you gotta pick and choose what you want to spend your money on. But if I'm going to buy it, I want it in the liquid form. And as far as I know, strong microbials is the only source for that. I have a question. Let's say you have wild bees that are resistant to varroa mites. Would you still recommend treating? I hadn't had to treat them in 3 years, but was wondering if I should. Well, Patrick, I mean, 3 years is 3 years. So personally, I've never had any type of luck like that with any bee that I've purchased from treatment-free sources, bees that I've caught in swarms. Just I don't have good success with that. And I guess it depends on how they're performing too. I really like 100 and something pound honey yields, and I can't get that off of swarmy wild bees. But lots of variables. But hey, if it's working for you, I wouldn't change anything. It would be interesting to see an alcohol wash or a Dawn soap wash on that and just see um, what the loads are in that thing. And it'd be interesting to see. Absolutely. Cayman, are you still going with single deep? So, like right now, all of my colonies are in a double setup, right? However, I do love single deeps. for honey production. I keep going a little bit back and forth, back and forth. They both work really good. The advantage to single deeps is you can pull more honey off, and one of the reasons I love it is because you know exactly where all the important stuff is, right? If it's swarm season, you need to see where the swarm cells are at. Well, they're only in one box. I don't have to go through 20 frames or 30 frames if it's a triple deep. So it saves me a lot of time looking for cells. Saves me time when I have to hunt the queen down if I think I need to yank her if they're wanting to swarm. If I wanted to yank brood, I know where it's all at. If I want to make a split, if I want to treat, everything's just so much easier. However, there is some management changes that go with single brood management. We will actually be diving deep into that out at the Hive Life conference. That's a very popular topic right now. So I'm going to have some beekeepers talk about that at the conference, and I will be joining them as well. We'll have a lot of different sessions on those kind of things. Now, I'm liking it even after the honey flow. We yank the honey. What we'll do is temporarily, we will take the excluder off and put it underneath the lid, pull up a frame of larvae into foundation. I drew like 1,000 deep combs in this yard after the honey flow, right at the tail end. Did exactly that. Dropped them down to a single brood management, threw on a box of foundation. All these bees fed, 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 got that awesome comb drawn. But then a lot of them, I went ahead and put the queen down in single brood management after they started drawing the combs good. Because now, as I'm going in there and I'm needing to do anything, pull brood or anything, I still find the queen. And the number one reason I like doing it, even during the DURS, so I have not had any honey coming in since about the 10th, 14th of June. But they're still in single brooding. You know why I still like it? Because for one, they don't want to swarm when it's a dearth going on, unless you just feed like nuts. But it is so much easier to evaluate the queen's brood pattern when they're in a single deep versus a double or a triple. Because if there's bee bread scattered around and brood scattered around and she's running up and down 2 or 3 different boxes, it's not that you can't evaluate it. It just takes more observations. But if it's in a single brood, you know exactly where you're going every time. You pull out one frame out of the center, just kind of scoot some frames at the edge. And usually that one frame will tell you, oh, this queen has got a nice brick, solid like pattern. So we'll talk about that more in the future, but I do like single brood quite a bit. Advantages and disadvantages all around. Okay. Stuart, thank you very much for your donation tonight. Hi, Kamon. Heard you mention a two queen system in a recent video. How would you set this up? Thank you for all your videos. Always set the alarm here in Scotland to watch the live chats. 2 a.m. there. Wow. Thank you very much for staying up late into the night. So as far as the two queen system, there's many ways to go about this. The one that I like to use is where you use a double screen board and you can go into a colony and pull some brood up and drop a new queen up in there. And once she's accepted with those bees, if you're wanting to do this prior to the honey flow, I still would use a double screen board. Let's say you got a strong double deep. Well, pull some brood up into on top of that double screen board with its own box. Put some combs or foundation down below. This is prior to the honey flow. And now you've got that second queen up there. Once she's accepted and laying good, you can combine them back and run one. Some people like run 2 excluders on top of each other. And now it's a 2 queen system. There's several different ways to do this. But personally, I really love the double screen board because it gives you a lot of options for just being a split right there in that one stand and put your cell up above, cell below, or 2 mated queens that you purchase. I really don't run 2 queen systems intentionally for honey production. I just prefer to make a whole nother colony, and that seems to work pretty good for me. Or just sell bees. I really do like selling bees quite a bit. But the double screen board, I think, is a super valuable tool, and you can make it yourself very easily. But that 2 queen system in that recent video, it was actually 1 queen in that polystyrene hive. She was doing awful. Went in there, killed her, broke the colony up, dropped a queen cell below, queen cell above the double screen board. Both came back. If only one of them would have come back, I'd have just combined it back and still got what I wanted. Just another insurance thing that we do. I hope that answers your question, Stuart. And thanks again so much. Roy Adams asks, have you contacted all the youth scholarship recipients? I just sent out an email to every single one of them, Roy. So if you know one of them, tell them to check their email. Do you ever use fluvalinate? And if so, does it cause some bee loss? I'm feeding 1-to-1, but the bees are not eating it, and brood range seems slow in both my colonies. Brad, I've never used fluvalinate before, or Kumafos, which would be Apistan and Checkmite. Is it Apistan that's Kumafos? I always get this confused. I'm thinking Apistan's fluvalinate, Checkmite's Kumafos. I could have that backwards. Regardless, I've never used it. I don't like using it just because there has been some immunity built up over the years. Now, they say after you don't use it for a while, it will kill mites again, but it builds up in your wax and is quite nasty of a chemical. So I don't use it for that reason. I don't really have any experience. You'd have to talk to someone who does, and I really don't know enough about it. So Joe Russell says, when will you announce the youth scholarship? I'm just kind of waiting for the parental sign-offs. That's what we sent with the, hey, congrats, you get to come, is that we can use their pictures for, like the website or something after the event's over. And also we can mention who they are. So I've got to get waivers signed off on that before that happens. Okay. Kamon, true or false? Sugar syrup is better for bee gut health to overwinter on than honey. Ah, well, maybe. Depends on the honey. Some honey is really good for bees and stores very good and does not experience a lot of degradation very quickly. Some honey crystallizes within a matter of a few weeks. Some honey has a lot more mineral content, and some honey has almost no mineral content. Some of us run into winters that last 6 months, and some of us, like in Tennessee, hardly have a winter. So a lot of it depends on location and type of honey. Personally, I do both. I don't take any fall honey, so the bees get that, and I also feed them to the weight that I want them. I want every strong colony to have a deep box of food going into winter. If it's a smaller colony, it can have a little bit less, like a 5-frame nuke, have maybe like 5 frames worth of food up on top or something like that. But definitely in areas that are like in Canada, Alaska, very sensitive on temperatures, the difference between sugar syrup and goldenrod honey and some of those fall honeys is massive. And they will lose bees on extra long winters because there's ash content, more ash content to honey than there is to sugar syrup, because when they refine all that, they pull all that out. So when you're overwintering for 6 months or whatever it is, that ash content builds up in their gut, and gut borne illnesses or disease or whatever can build up in their gut. I'm not an expert on that. I can regurgitate what I've been told by Ian and Etienne and Canadian guys like that. But yeah, sugar syrup is a very valuable tool, and many northern beekeepers find that feeding sugar syrup for winter and yanking all the honey off, their bees do better. Crazy world we live in, right? But ultimately, what works works. Boy, that was super profound. Okay, hang on. I gotta block somebody. All right. Yeah. That person's gone. So Noah Gaynor, thanks so much for coming in and supporting us yet again. Hey, Cayman, I've read where the lack of pollen triggers the colonies to start rearing winter bees. Do you agree with this, or would you keep pollen patties on them until the goldenrod starts? Thanks. That doesn't sound right to me. There might be something like a technicality there, like time of the year and lack of pollen towards the end of the fall flow maybe triggers to start rearing winter bee. No, that can't be right. This doesn't sound right at all to me. Lack of pollen. I mean, we've had lack of pollen for the last 2 months here, so they're not trying to rear winter bees here. A lot of it's the time of the year. Bees really it's a time of the year and available forage. Those are the two factors that affect bees population growth. So there are beekeepers who go in southern states and they're getting pollen first week of January. The day length is not very long. They still are getting pollen though, so the bees brood up. Now, if the day length was longer and they were getting that pollen, they would brood up even more heavily. So there's a balance between time of the year, solstice, and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what we use as guide points and all that kind of thing. But as far as I don't agree with that. Now, as far as feeding pollen patties, I think they're a great tool. Sometimes I probably use them when I don't need to, but I like bees that go into winter that look like they're going to laugh at it. I like big bees. So I feed pollen patties um, right now, and I'm really contemplating if I can find the time to feed them even towards the end of the fall flow and just help beef up those colonies. Get plenty of healthy winter bees and watch the fall flow. See what it's doing. Are your bees bringing in tons of pollen? Are they packing away some bee bread? What's going on? But that, honey. We talk about honey a lot, but pollen is so vital for everything our bees do. They can't raise a bee without good proteins and fats. So, even just a little bit to supplement, even if it's a quarter of a pound, a couple times a month, can make a big difference on an extra frame or so of bees going into winter. And once they start raising that first round of brood, if they can cover an extra frame in February or whenever it is for your area, that's massive on the multiplication that you will get up to your honey flow. Problem is, if you do a really good job and the year's good too, you'll be cutting swarm cells out weeks before you probably thought you were going to. So you just have to stay ahead of them. I'll take that chance. I like the big bees. All right. Hmm. Yeah. Randy Oliver did a study on probiotics and saw no difference against the sugar. That is what I heard from Randy as well. Randy is not always 100% right, but he is mostly right. And so there's only been a couple instances over the decades that I have thought, well, not thought, but that it has not worked out. But by and large, Randy does a very good work. And if he says he's not seeing a difference, and that makes me want to use it less. When drawing comb for the future, do you use an excluder? How do you store those frames? My bees backfill with nectar and some honey. So it's difficult to not get backfilled with nectar and some honey if you don't have excess drawn comb. So it sounds like you need some. When drawing comes for the future, do I use an excluder? I use them after they've already committed to at least a third of the new box. I do not have an excluder on. Okay, variables here. Variables. New beekeeper, you have no drawn combs. Do not put an excluder on and put foundation on top. However, if you're a beekeeper that has combs, and let's say you have a double deep colony, you throw on one medium drawn comb with an excluder, and then you have another box that is foundation. You can do that. I would recommend foundation always needs to be close to the brood chamber though. So it'd be foundation then comb. But if they have that comb up there to go to, they'll deposit that, and that gives you a little bit more time for them to work on that. But it's really best if you just have foundations to give to not put an excluder on until they've committed to drawing at least a third of the combs out in that super, and then you can put that excluder on, and they've committed to drawing combs. In your honey supers, make sure that you have good foundations. If it's wax foundation, well, then you're set. If it's plastic foundation, don't skimp and get the cheap stuff. I've done that in the past, and some of the companies really put such a thin wax coat on their foundations. You really need to coat them again. That's why I purchased Premier Foundation. Oh, here we go with another ad. But seriously, though, I've drawn almost 3,000 sheets over the last year and a half. I've never had to recoat one. They're thicker and the wax quality is better, and they're 20% off at my conference. So I like the Premier because since it has a thicker, higher quality gummy wax, the bees go after it fast and draw it quickly. Quality wax is very desirable to bees, where cheap wax is not. And some of these companies, and I'm not going to name names because I don't have actual proof, but their foundation is not getting drawn right. And the only time you see combs get drawn funky like that is when they're mixing paraffins with beeswax to save money. And they do it. Kevin Rowland. Hey, Kevin, thanks again for supporting us. Really appreciate that very much. Fixing to keep up with the all's videos. Hey, I do say fixing quite a bit. I don't get that really from my dad or my mother. I must be hanging around my wife. She's more Southern than all of us put together. But Kevin, we do really appreciate you, and I'm fixing to get to your comment up above. So, Kamon, Cashiers, North Carolina, elevation 3,500. First year newbie, 2 hive start, now 3. Had 2 harvests, included sourwood, still good flow here. Question: go with another harvest or save for winter? Man, I don't know much about your area in North Carolina. Right now, if I'm you, though, sounds like you've had a really good first year. I'm focused. What I'm doing is let's focus on getting those mites low. Let's focus on nutritionally where we're at. And even you're pulling all that honey off them. That's great. Don't ever let those bees feel like they're short on food. Don't let them do it. They'll cut back real fast. And it's amazing how fast. I've seen it before where we'll take honey off. And if we don't get back to them even for a week, but they ran out of what they needed to sustain their population, they will cut off a lot of the forager population and send them off like they do for winter because, like, we just can't feed those guys, and it really retards your colony. So, right now, if I'm you, I'm looking at investing into what I need to do right now. Maybe you can get a fall crop. Excuse me. But definitely make sure that you prepare them good for winter. And if you do pull a fall crop, pull it fast, even if it's not, maybe it's 19% water content. Go ahead, yank it off, put some fans on it as soon as you can. Because if you're going to do that, you're going to need to feed sugar syrup and feed it fast. 1 to 1. It takes a lot to make a gallon of actual honey thick feed. So 2 to 1 would be better. It's very hard to mix 2 to 1. So maybe do 1.5 pounds of sugar to 1 pound of water. But your area is very different than mine. I've been in a dearth for 2 months. So keep me posted on how that works for you. Congratulations on your first year. That's awesome. I wish that was my first year or my second. But anyhow, I hope that you keep me posted on how things and what you end up doing for fall. Do you have to put Hive Alive or another additive for sugar water? Absolutely not. Most of the time I never put anything in there. I do keep some around though. Um, of a company's product. Hive Alive is what I picked up at our conference last year. And so the only reason I have it around, not because I use it on a regular basis in all of my feed, but whenever I make like 300 gallons at a time, what happens if I have 50 gallons left that I just, didn't need to feed that yet? Well, I don't want it to ferment on me. And so I'll put a concentrated dose of, it could be Hive Alive, it could be Honeybee Healthy, it could be, heck, it could even be a little bit of bleach. A lot of commercial guys do that. Some people put thymol in their syrup and make thymolated syrup. I don't know much about that. However, there's things you can do to preserve that. And so I'll mix that in. And then when I go around to feed again, especially if I'm making more syrup, then it'll dilute down with the rest that I make. So I use it primarily to keep it from fermenting. I don't really use it as something for a health purpose. My bees are healthy without it. I don't need it. Great queens, dead mites, good nutrition. I don't really need the help of any type of special supplements. The only supplement that I love and would not do without and wish we could even get more advancement in it is better pollen patties. Global patties right now is my clear favorite. They have really done a good job with their pollen patties, and my bees do like it quite a bit, and I see good results. They also will be at the Hive Life conference and very, very affordable. So, corn syrup, good to feed bees for winter. You can. My buddy Gus Mitchell, they have Cargill right there in Memphis. You can get it for like, I don't know, it might have gone up in a little bit more, but I think it was like 20 something cents, mid 20s, low 20s per pound. Very affordable syrup. That's high fructose corn syrup 55, which is there's different grades of high fructose corn syrup. 55 is what they put in, I believe, all of our sodas and stuff. It's not very healthy for us. It can work for bees. I've never fed it. It's definitely been proven not to be as good for the bees. However, there are people who are successful with it. So it's hard to argue with guys that I know that run thousands of colonies and do it. Some of them actually will blend some sugar in bags with this high fructose corn syrup to make it a better feed. But you can do it. Regular corn syrup is not good to feed. It has to be high fructose corn syrup. If you're going to go with the corn syrup, it'd be best to avoid it altogether. Man Like said their Pro Sweet is made from corn syrup. That's only partially true. Most of it is actually sucrose, which is like white granular sugar, sucrose. And then they do have some high fructose corn syrup in there to balance out the sucrose and fructose and all that and make a more balanced feed for bees. So there is a little bit of both of those in there. Sugar syrup versus Pro Sweet. I've got 3 totes. Well, I have 2.5 now of Pro Sweet, and I love syrup, but the stuff you get from Walmart, that stuff works as good as or better. Really, it's all about price point to me. What can I get at the best price? Okay, I have to say a huge thank you again to Taylor Jarman. Sorry, Taylor, it took me so long to get to this. Man, I appreciate you coming in and just dropping a big 100 on the group yet again. And what kind of fish is that you're holding right there? All I know is it looks delicious. I'll be going to the Gulf about a month or so from now, and I'm hoping to do a little bit of fishing, and I would like to catch something like that. Definitely. Thank you so much again, and bring your questions anytime. Getting back to questions. Hmm. Bee Desert, treated with oxalic acid vapor last year and this year. I'm getting 0 counts. Treated anyways and got no drops, 3 rounds, and I quit. I realize this is awesome. T Hill Tony, that is awesome. Fantastic. Um, Now you just got to make sure they got enough feed and all that jazz. But, there's just so many variables. And that's why we have to talk so much about this whole mite thing. But I'm really tired of talking about mites. Really am tired about it. When I go get asked to speak and at all these bee clubs like in West Virginia, Arkansas, not all of them, but a lot of them want me to talk about varroa mites. It's because it's the revelations of beekeeping and nobody wants to talk about it. But it is important. We need to understand it, and we will always talk about it because they'll always be here. But it's just a matter of time till we get something else. History shows something else is going to hit. Hopefully, not tropolalaps, but who knows? That new virus, new type of bug we've never even heard of before. You just don't know. So we need to, as a community, understand Varroa, be able to deal with it, and move on so we can focus the majority of our talks on, hey, my bees made it through winter. How do I keep them from swarming? Oh goodness, Kamon, I made so much honey. What's a better extractor? That's what I want to hear more and more, and I am hearing more and more of that. But I'm tired of mites. I want it to not be as big of a deal in the next couple of years because more people understand, and it's I can't do it all. I mean, Bob, me, Fred, anybody on YouTube, we can only do so much. We share what we can, we do our best. But really, you guys going out there and understanding this and doing it with your bees, you impact a lot of people too. You go out there to your bee clubs and the conferences and various things and talk to your bee buddies. And the more you know, the more they know. And so it really is a trickle down effect. And hopefully, overall, our understanding of Varroa will get better and we'll all be more successful. And the entire economy of beekeeping will be much improved because of that. So that's my dream. I definitely dream big, don't I? Just don't want to talk that much about Varroa. That's all. Hey, Cayman, new beekeeper here in Middle Tennessee. Think we found a super seizure queen cell. What should we be thinking about? All right. So I don't know when you saw it, but if it, let's say if it was like today or something, and it's still capped in that queen cell, what you could do is if there's multiple ones, and there usually is you could make a small nuke split and just let that colony naturally supersede. But you also make a small split. It could be one frame with the queen cell or two queen cells, whatever, on it, and just make sure there's enough bees to cover that. I usually put a frame of food, and then I will, on a frame that does not have a queen cell, shake two frames of bees in there to make sure they have plenty of coverage and can keep that queen cell warm. Then put all of it back together. Don't disturb either colony for 3 weeks. Give it about 3 weeks or so, and hopefully you'll come back to two nice queens. But even if you only come back to one of them being successful, you can combine those back together. You'll have a fresh new queen, and that's what I would do in that situation. However, don't disturb them if there's a virgin running around in there. Um, that's just not a good idea. It can get sometimes those virgin queens balled up. Hmm. What is a decent price for a pound of comb honey? Russell, I've never sold comb honey before. Gus, you want to take that one? You want to answer that in the comments? Hey, Cayman, I'm freezing my honey this year for the first time to see how it works. What is your thoughts? 5-gallon buckets on a pallet, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So, as we know, due to Bob Benny's legendary talks on honey and preservation, the best way to store honey is by freezing it. Who would have thunk a few years ago that honey degrades like it does? Obviously, it's still edible for humans, but yes, I mean, gosh, enzymes and other things degrade over time. So even honey is not immune to father time. However, yeah, you could do that. Put them on a 5-gallon bucket on a pallet, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me know how that works for you. I'm sure it'll retard honey getting darker and crystallization and all kinds of stuff, keeping it that cold. So if you've got the space for it and you want to do it, knock yourself out. I just asked Mark that you let me know how it works for you and what you think of it. That'd be kind of really cool to hear. So Gus is commenting, and a couple other guys are down there as well, that a pound of 4x4 comb honey retails for $20. $20 a pound. But hey, that's some good stuff. That comb honey, it's hard to produce. It depends on your area, though. I'd say some people are getting more than that. I've actually saw someone the other day that was charging $30 for one of those, which I thought, gosh darn it, that's a lot. And then I've seen it for less than that too. Let's see. Have you filled drawn combs with sugar and have you filled drawn comb with sugar and fed directly? So I've heard of a couple people doing that where they'll take granulated sugar and pour it into drawn combs and then put that into colonies. That can work as an emergency feed. I don't like it. There's better ways to do it because sometimes they'll just pack it in there and then they'll never get around to using it sometimes. And it's kind of a pain. Make a sugar brick, mountain camp sugar. Um, you can buy fondant if you want. I wish fondant was a little easier to make. I do really like it. It's just too expensive for me. But as far as emergency feed, I mean, you can do that. I know guys who have done that. I've done crazy things before. I actually made, oh gosh, I don't remember the ratio, but we just took sugar and we took water and just a tiny, tiny bit of water and made thin little like sugar bricks. And we just chucked it into some splits that we made the first day of March. It was so cold. They had to have some food contact, and that's all I could rig up. And it was really poor, but it worked until it got a little bit warmer and they could take some syrup. I just kept feeding them little tiny, like looked like icicles of sugar, and they just would lick that off and get that to a liquid using the moisture from themselves and the condensation. That's one thing I was talking to a beekeeper about the other day. The condensation, that's actually important. We talk about condensation in wintertime as it's always this evil thing. But bees need condensation in long winters, especially. They have to have water. And there's actually research in areas like Poland and very cold regions of the world where there's done studies that bees need some water during wintertime, and if they can't get out and fly, then how else are they going to get it but the condensation? So some of these gizmos to eliminate all condensation could actually be a little counterproductive. I can tell you here in Tennessee, the first thing my bees do in January on a 50-degree day, or December, February, whatever, is they go out and they find water. Well, they take a dump and then they go get some water and bring it back to the colony. So there's a lot of variables there, but honestly, think the condensation for me just needs to be dealt with a well insulated lid or maybe another strategy or two. But I don't seem to have issues with it here in Tennessee at all. On the big colonies, scrolling down, Kamon is feeding pollen sub powder as good as pollen patties. Jim, I don't think so. There are people who argue with me with that one until they're blue in the face, but I have tested and I have tested, and I can tell you based on what I've seen, pollen patties are superior. They are. Does that mean pollen sub powder is no good? Well, no. But here's why I'm saying this. I know for a fact we have had a dearth of significant pollens in quantity and quality since the second week of June. I have had Ultra Bee sitting out there ready for them to forage. They might send 10 to 30 bees during that whole period to work that. Now, I have 60 something colonies in this yard. If they really wanted it, you wouldn't even be able to see the bucket that it's in, but they're not touching it much. And the only thing I can figure is there's a trickle of natural pollen that comes in each morning, just enough to where they don't desire it. However, 2 weeks ago, they started hammering it. Not to like the fullest extent that I would see in October after a frost, but there were like 1,000 bees on it or more at a time. So I've always had it out for the bees to go. However, during this whole time, I've been feeding pollen patties and they've been eating every bit of it. And I've been seeing visible results from feeding those, and my colonies are so big, I'm worried I'm not pulling them back big enough in August. Pollen powder would never do that for me. And they only hit it hard for 2 weeks. Now the fall flow is starting to kick into gear. My bees are starting to bring in natural pollen. They totally are ignoring it again, but they will still consume pollen patties. And with a little bit of natural pollen, it's not a lot right now, but with a little bit of natural combined with that pollen patty, we can get some complete proteins and a decent profile of amino acids that we need to have and mineral content and make a big population of healthy bees. It works. That's why I believe that pollen patties are way superior. If it wasn't for small hive beetles, everybody would be using them a lot more. They just create a lot of problems. So some people use traps to keep them down. There hopefully will be some more traps made in the future. I know of a couple companies who are working on new products right now. They look promising. Hopefully they'll make it to market. We definitely need some more stuff. And hey, if you're wanting to sell a product, as long as it's a good one, you can get free advertising from yours truly. I just need something that kills those suckers. But pollen patties are awesome. I love them. Hey, John O'Brien, looking forward to meeting you at the Hive Life Conference. So this year, I've got a whole lot more people to help me out. So Laurel says my job is just to hang out. I'm looking forward to that. I'm really good at those kind of things. And last year, I didn't have as much time because I was running a lot of it. I still will be running the setup but I won't be actually running a lot of the stuff during the event itself unless there's just something like crazy going on. So that means there will be something. Um, but I should have a lot of time to network. It's going to be a blast. There's going to be so much bee gadgets and stuff there. There's not going to be enough time to get a fawn over all of it. I know I'm not going to have enough time to fawn over all of it. Hey, TB, thanks for saying so. Glad to see you again on here. I know, yeah, you have thanked me in the past, but I do appreciate it. I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago. I was talking to a young YouTuber the other day, and I was like, it wasn't that long ago. We had 300 subscribers, 200 subscribers. And my wife was telling me that we should do this. And I was not wanting to get onto YouTube because, when you put yourself up here, you open yourself up to a plethora of scrutiny and into all the peons of the world. And I still deal with it on a bi-daily basis, sometimes on a daily basis. And hey, every now and then one of these guys is right. They still don't have to be ugly about it, but most of the time they're just being ugly for no good reason. However, the point I'm getting to is people like you saying thank you, and encouraging me, has really got all of this to where it's at, because there was definitely early time periods where I struggled, with my self-esteem. I was not happy with my videos. I knew they could be better. I still feel like my videos could be better, and they will continue to grow and get better. But it's through you all's encouragement and continuous support that all of this is made possible. This is a community. This YouTube channel is one way that I'm able to communicate with you all. And the Hive Life Conference is one of the ways that I can say thank you and to help bring about change in this industry. And it all sounds fun and, delusions of grandeur, but it's happening. I wish I could share with you all everything that I know right now and could tell you all the things that are coming. It's exciting. It is so exciting. It's something that was just, I wouldn't have thought could have happened except out of a dream. So, a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline. And I believe that the more awesome things that happen, the more of you that are successful, the more companies that are successful, the ones that are actually doing things for the beekeeper, the more fighting and change and awesome is going to happen. It's just, it's infectious, and it's going to happen, and it is happening. Whew. I had to take a deep breath there for a second. I'm running a mason jar super next year for drawn comb honey. Granted, the comb will be in a jar, so coming up with the price will be complicated. Takes the complication out of combed honey. I don't really know anybody that does that a lot. I think it'd be really tricky to coax bees into jars as opposed to, and then getting the bees out of the jars. Maybe if you had like some comb honey starter strips, beeswaxed up into the jar to get them to start a little bit more. I don't know. I'd have to learn more about that. I've never looked into it a lot, but I know it has to be tricky to get bees to work in those jars. Very difficult to keep them from swarming, but I would love to learn more. So Doug Summers says, who will have creamed honey at the conference? So Byron Ferris will have creamed honey at the conference. And he was creaming with his licensed 36-gallon creamer last year. He'll be doing live demos on that this year. By the way, reach out if you're coming. Tell people, hey, demos, Kamon's interested in them. If they're cool, they're useful, and more importantly, educational, we want to have them. And we want to help those get to our conference. Any companies that you want to see at our conference, hound them to death. That's how we got Better Bee last year. We drove them nuts until they eventually caved. And yeah, there's just squeaky wheel gets the grease. I have not had any issue getting sugar. I'm John Hatch. Um, but I'm not saying that other people aren't having issues. So far, so good. Hmm. Tw- Laurel just laughed in the other room. So apparently somebody just said a goofy comment. Probably made fun of me. Can you add more tickets for Hive Life if you are sold out soon? We kind of can, but the thing of it is, I don't know if we want to do that because we can only manage so much. I mean, Laurel and I do 90% of the Hive Life conference stuff, and I'm running hundreds of bees, YouTube channel videos, working with companies on developing products, some of them that will be at the conference, actually, very cool ones. And there's just not enough time. I'm emailing the kids sponsorship. I'm doing too much. And so I don't want to be greedy and to get too many people at the conference and not be able to deliver at an extremely high level. So once we reach what we feel comfortable with, what we can handle, we'll cut it off. Um, however, there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to. Oh, the honey show this year. So I know many of you don't do Facebook, so that's understandable. I don't like those guys either, but it's where my business is, and so therefore I use it. However, we have a lot of information on there. The vendors are just now starting to send me their deals. It's going to take a while to get all this stuff up to the website. I hope to have 90% of all the vendor deals and contact information for pre orders by late September at the latest. And then you'll be able to see that. Before the honey show, for those of you who are planning to come to Hive Life and want to do the honey show, I want to say this. First of all, the winner of the honey show this year will receive a silver plated trophy on a marble stand for best of show. It's going to be really cool. We'll still have the USA made ribbons by Hodges. Fantastic ribbons. We love supporting USA. At the same time, we are also looking at maybe having some cash prizes for that. We are going to see if that is a possibility this year. Okay, so what about categories? Last year we had extracted water white, amber, and dark amber extracted honeys. Those will be happening. They'll be in glass 1 pound jars again this year. This year we're going to have creamed honey, 1 pound jars, glass. This year we're going to have naturally flavored creamed honey. So this cannot have artificial flavoring, but it can have cinnamon, vanilla. It could have, heck, blueberries if you want to figure out how to make that work in there. That'll be a category. We'll have the black jar competition again. We'll have the 2x4 comb honey sections this year. Those can be in plastic containers. No labels on any of this stuff. And the honey show judges are working on getting the rules together as we speak, but we're trying to make this very custom to make this very cool. We're putting a lot of effort into the honey show this year. We'll have the 4x4 comb honey section this year. So some of you guys are already doing comb honey. Plan on that. We're going to do the chunk comb honey. So it'll be a 1 pound jar with comb chunk in it. Beeswax blocks. We're going to have the decorative beeswax blocks. So that could be like a Christmas tree. That could be a beeswax hive sculpture, whatever. They'll put the rules together for that. We'll have 3 categories of candles. We'll have the beekeeping gift basket, which could be anything from lip balms to honey to creamed honey to various propolis salves or whatever. It needs to look cute. So I'm not judging that one. Okay. There's going to be needlecraft, and I really like this one. I don't know anything about how to make these things, but my great grandmother and my mom and my wife and my sister-in-law all do a lot of sewing, crocheting, knitting, and those kind of things. So anything that is neat, in that needle craft, as long as it's honeybee related, that can be entered in, and there'll be first, second, and third place for that. We'll have beekeeping photography. This one could be awesome. Honey sauce category, barbecues, honey mustard. If you've got a honey based sauce, bring it and we'll try it out. And hey, if you even want to sell it, I'll do a YouTube video on it. If it gets first place, we'll spread the word. We want to know how to make those honey sauces. There'll be honey bread, and last but not least, honey dessert category. So it could be anything from cookies sweetened with honey. It could be a cake. It could be, heck, if I know, anything like that. So lots of cool stuff there. Hope that plenty of people will come out to our honey show. And we are going to do whatever we can to make Hive Life Conference one of the coolest honey shows in the nation. Will a pint jar for chunk honey work? I believe that it will, but I'll have to consult them, and that will be mentioned in the rules. Um, I know that it's that one of the things that they look for is like, let's say that there's two people and the quality of the honey is very identical. One of the things that they have to do processes of elimination, like some of this stuff is pretty darn competitive. They're very similar. And so they'll even kind of judge jars if it gets to that point. They go for the honey and the characteristics of honey first, but if there's two really close towards first place and they have to pick something, they're going to go for the one that has the better jar display. So this right here, this is some that Gus and I extracted. All of that debris on top of the lid and all that stickiness on the lid, that's going to be docked points right there. However, it's good. It's really good. Woohoo. Is there a place for slow baked honey bacon jerky? Holy smokes. We will make one if you have some good one. That sounds amazing. I didn't think about that. A jerky category. I could judge that one. Yeah. Honey ice cream. Yeah. Actually, we make honey ice cream here. And someone asked the other day if we could do the honey caramel recipe. Hey, Laurel, do you mind maybe getting that at some point? Go ahead and engrave Myra's name on the Honey Show trophy. So, one of the things that we are thinking of doing for the Honey Show is for the best of show winner, not only getting the trophy, but also getting a free trip to Hive Life the next year. That seems almost a little excessive. Myra won't win it all. She can't. I mean, surely not. You're not going to let Myra just run away with it. I tell you, she's so sweet. She wants everybody to be there. She's like, Kamon, I just want to see a lot of people involved with the Honey Show. She doesn't care if she would like to win. Of course, everybody does, but she would rather see a lot more people involved. Um, yeah, Myra's awesome. All right. Kamon, looking forward to seeing you in January. Any idea for the conference is to have a corner for people to bring and sell used items. Here's the trick on that is we might could do it for like extractors and stuff at some point in the future, but it cannot be any combs, used frames, boxes. In Tennessee, it is illegal to sell any woodenware that has been used by bees. Now, an extractor, something like that, that could be done. I don't think I'm going to have time for that this year. If somebody wants to mention that on the side and say, "Hey, are you going? Yeah, you want a max end extractor, or whatever it is, you can do that outside of the conference building as long as it's used. That's fine." Um, all right, all right, all right. Sound like Matthew McConaughey. Um, Honey caramel. So 1 cup of honey. Make sure it is the good stuff. So 3/4 of a pound of cream, like the what? Oh, did I say pound? Well, I like cream. Sorry, 3/4 of a cup of cream. So 1 cup of honey, 3/4 of a cup of cream, whole cream. Then you cook those two first and you heat it to 270 degrees Fahrenheit. If you would just do this would be a lot easier. And then after that's heated, and like right when it hits the 270, you have to pull it right off the eye. If you wait even a minute too long, sometimes you can burn it. But I'm telling you, if you make these, you will eat them and eat them and eat them. And then when your spouse goes to take the last bite, you will smack her hand away viciously to get that last piece. Okay, so you pull it off at 270 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the thermometer gets up to that point, then you add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Use the good stuff; it's worth it. And what is that? 6 tablespoons of salted butter, and then you mix that together. You pour it into whatever you want it, and then you buttered glass dish, and then you put that in the fridge, right? And then You mix pecans and macadamia nuts and dark chocolate, and you eat it until you hurt. It's delicious. So good. Ah, man, Laurel, go make some, would you? More bluegrass videos. All right. So, what do you have for T-shirts at the conference? We haven't got around to that so far. I'll try to work on that whenever I can. So there will be a 1 pound honey exchange this year. So we'll be mentioning that. So anyone that's coming to the conference, 1 pound honey exchange. There'll be a lot of people bringing their honey, and you can bring a pound and just swap it out and get to try honey from Maine and Alaska, possibly Canada, Hawaii, Europe, Kentucky, even. We like to pick on those guys. Is there a honey glazed barbecue category? You will double attendance. Haha. So yeah, I think the sauce category, we thought about doing strictly barbecue, but then we decided to do honey sauce because we don't know how much demand and how many people get involved with it. And so we want to make sure there's enough contestants for it. But barbecue is what we're hoping for. Absolutely. Okay. Okay, so John O'Brien, you asked a question. I think maybe you're talking to folks in the comments. So if not, just repost it below. I don't see the original question. I'm around Fort Knox, Kentucky area. How many beekeepers are feeding 2-to-1 syrup to their bees yet? Thanks, Matt. So, really, ratios are all about what the bees need. And the nice thing is you can customize it to your use. If you don't need a lot of weight in your colonies, but you're trying to draw combs out or you're trying just to stimulate brood rearing along, you can use half a pound of sugar to 1 pound of water during a dearth, and bees will take it. I usually don't go that thin. I go about 3/4 of a pound of sugar to 1 pound of water. However, I have gone into colonies in July. There were splits that I made, and they needed a lot of weight. And when you have syrup like I do, it's very easy to mix 2-to-1. And so I was feeding 2-to-1 for those specific colonies. The rest of them were getting 1-to-1 because I wanted to add a lot of weight. And when it all condenses down, obviously it's twice as much that the bees get out of it as a 1-to-1. So I'm really not feeding 2-to-1 right now, but you can do whatever you see fit for your bees, and just realize, everybody, that's a very flexible thing. If you want your bees to gain weight faster, just make it thicker, and then vice versa for the other thing. Okay. Get into questions. All right, TB, thanks again. More bluegrass videos too. All right, I appreciate you so much, TB. And yes, we will have a bluegrass show. Everything will be professionally filmed. Last year's is professionally filmed and still available on Vimeo. And then, as far as this year, we're going to have double the speakers or more. It'll be filmed. That'll be professionally recorded for those who aren't able to make it or who wanted to maybe see some of the classes they missed. The bluegrass will be professionally recorded, and it will be available on YouTube again at the end of the show. Kamon, any chance of doing a show in our little city of Las Vegas? So you're wanting me to go from God's country to Sin City? Joshua Tree Preserve? Probably not Las Vegas, at least not anytime soon. Right now, our conference is growing so fast, I can't hardly keep up with it. I don't see why we can't keep growing in the location that we are at. We may one day move the conference to another location and move it around, but it's hard to beat Sevierville for a lot of families because there's a lot to do in the area. The rooms are affordable. By the way, I've added a lot of hotels to the website, so there are more discounted hotel prices. But one day, possibly, we may come close to you guys. I'm always concerned about keeping this as affordable as I can for people. Hey, Doug Summers, thanks for coming on. You've been here since the moment we started. Appreciate you, buddy. Besides the whole Buckeye comment, he started this whole thing out with Go Buckeyes. And by the way, everybody, today is National Honeybee Day. People had to remind me. They're like, Kamon, you should know this. This is basically your job. Every day is Honeybee Day when you're a beekeeper. Every day. What? Is there a funny comment or something? World Honeybee Day? National? World? Whatever. It doesn't matter. Honeybees should be talked about every day by everybody. And honey should be replaced and put on replace sugar and all that kind of stuff. I'm getting emotional here. So Don Bearden, yeah, he's made some honey caramel. He knows what I'm talking about. He's also accused me and Laurel about making him gain some weight over him too. So we got to watch that. Came and left out Alabama. Yeah, roll tide. Hillbilly Beekeeping. Hey, Hillbilly Beekeeping. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. And good night. And God bless you all. And good luck with your upcoming videos and all that kind of stuff. Would like to see some 2-gallon frame feeders that slow feed from the bottom like a bucket feeder in the future from one of these vendors. That's cheap. I guess if they were at the bottom, that could work. The problem, I think you'd have to watch out for them propolising any device at the bottom that the bees were feeding out of, like holes or some type of feeder or whatever. But they definitely, I would like to see some more options in the feeder game. So the website for the Hive Life Conference is just hivelifeconference.com, and make sure you check out all of the pages and come back and check it because we have a lot of stuff. We have not even added half the stuff on there yet. Right now, you got all the speakers by and large already on there. Vendor stuff is where it's going to be cool. We're going to have all the deals on there, and that will be really nice to see. That's right. Every day's honey day. Eat honey every day. It's good for you. Sweat honey. I got you. I got you. All right. So, lots of stuff going on. So, the research yard this year, someone sent in a request for me to lay out what we're doing this year. And what we're going to do is have all the information actually on the Hive Life Conference website. So the data from last year, the data from this year, as that is now going to be all reformatted over into a new system that is done by somebody much better at it than me. That will all be available at hivelifeconference.com. After we get done with this yard, we just started treatments. So right now we're doing 4 groups. One is a control group, so no treatments in that one. We've alcohol washed or soap washed. It's hard to get over. Every colony twice. So one of the groups is the Randy Oliver extended release sponges. And this is 50 grams of oxalic acid impregnated into a sponge with glycerin. Then the other test group is ApiGuard. That is, in this year's round, 3 doses of 33 grams a week apart. So the first round of that has been applied. And the last one, which is, I just did one of them today, is oxalic acid vapor. And we are testing out heavy doses, 4 grams of oxalic acid per brood chamber. So on a double deep, that's 8 grams of oxalic acid 5 times in 13 days. Sounds excessive, doesn't it? If it works, we'll see. I want to see, because everyone, it seems like it's always just slowly going up like this on oxalic acid. And I don't think we've arrived where we need to on treatments. So I want to go probably past the point where we need to be, and then you can dial it back, right? Now, a lot of this isn't legal. It is not legal for you to do that. It is not legal for you to treat with oxalic acid extended release. We've got EPA exemption. So just FYI, I'm not recommending you to do this stuff, but we need to learn and push the envelope. All that jazz. Now that I've covered my rear end, we can move on to something else. I will be doing a video, John Hatch, on the extended release treatment. Yes, we are actually filming snippets of this as we go along. Problem is, there's just not enough time in the day. I don't really have time for this live chat right now, but I need to do it. I need to keep people updated as best I can. And I also enjoy it quite a bit. I really do enjoy getting to catch up with a lot of you. Many of you I have seen for years. I mean, you're basically friends. I mean, several of you I consider good friends that come on here. So it's this is our not so ashamed of being addicted to bees chat, I guess. We're definitely not trying to get over it. I know that. So are you doing your OAV 3 days apart? So not quite, Craig. So what I'm doing is 2 days, 2 days, 3 days, 3 days. So yeah, it's day one. Then 2 days later, I drop some, and then yeah, the original treatment. Then 2 days later, I hit them, and then it's 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. That's right. And that is because we're trying to really cover that whole emergence period of all the capped brood emerging and just hammering the crap. Sorry for my language. Those mites, just take them out and see if it works. I think it's an extremely aggressive approach, and we will see if it actually works. Came and I have to jump on the Alabama bandwagon with you. I just dropped my son off at Alabama for freshman year. Oh, man. All right. Well, that's awesome, Vince. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. Good luck with his school and all that. Well, Galloway Light says, life is the best, Cayman. Let us speak our minds and you can set us straight. Well, half the time, I might need to be the one that gets set straight in here, you know. But no, I do really appreciate the community that we have. 90% of the information that I share with you, I've learned from beekeepers, and that's the way it's always been. I mean, any beekeeper that's honest will tell you that most of the information they know they received from somebody else. A lot of the information I share with you came from GM Doolittle, the father of modern queen rearing, from Eugene Killian, Bob Benny, Ian Stepler, Michael Palmer, Randy Oliver, several other beekeepers, Walter T. Kelly, one of my earliest sources, Roger Morse. I mean, a lot. I love to read beekeeping books. Larry Connor, you know, and so but this is what we must do in order to help each other out is to communicate. And also this is a trait I wish I could see permeated throughout bee clubs, and it's not very prevalent, is a open mind and a humble attitude that yes, I actually can be wrong about something. And if someone approaches me about it, I can get over that and not get butt hurt over it, because I remember one time I was talking with Bob and Bob disagreed with me about something. He's like, I actually don't agree with that. And you know what? I, I deferred right at the moment, said, hey, I've got 33 years on planet Earth. Bob Benny's been keeping bees a lot longer than me. Doesn't mean that Bob can't ever be wrong, but chances are Bob's more right than Kamon Reynolds is on a lot of these subjects. And Bob was right. So humble attitudes. I don't care if I'm 90 years old, always learning. Always learning. All right. So Dwayne. Yeah, so you gotta watch the high temperatures for sure on the oxalic acid vapor on those hot days. I really wouldn't want to have to treat with 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Honestly, the oxalic acid vapor, when there's a lot of brood in the colony, I'm not even sure with this if we're going to get the knockbacks that we want. That's again why I'm doing such an aggressive treatment strategy on that. So much acid, so much uh, frequency is okay. These colonies have tons of brood, slabs of brood. Is this going to be enough, even this excessive amount, to get the knockback that I want, which is 90% or darn close to 90%, with 5 rounds in a 13-day period with 4 grams per deep box? Is that going to be enough when there's a lot of brood in the colony? And we need to know, is it or is it not? I can tell you right now, though, I don't enjoy going out there and doing it in this heat. Bees are not enjoying it very much either. I love oxalic acid vapor when they're broodless. It's great treatment for them, but whoo. That's right, Coal Creek. The beauty of beekeeping, you have to figure out what works for you and take it all with a grain of salt. But guesswork, I'm not into guesswork. There's a lot of people that think they know what's working for them, and it's guesswork. Um, Trust but verify, and that goes even with ourselves. Make sure that we know what we know and confirm it. As a new beekeeper, I was bad about that. You kind of believe something, and then you find out a few years later, oh, that's why I was having some issues. So, definitely agree with that, though. Kamon, when is your testing over? So, sounds like it's going to be the end of September. As far as when we're going to come back. So, the very end of September, we'll come back and do washes on the colonies. And then we'll have to count that and then compile the data and put it in some graphs and charts to where we can understand what it all means. And I'm not saying we'll come up with something legendary, but I hope we can come up with something that will be useful. And so hopefully, very close to the end of September, early October, we will have all of this compiled for everyone to enjoy and to scratch their heads over. Well, and Sarah's happy hives. We're all still finding our beekeeping legs, so to speak. There's always something exciting and new to learn, and maybe not everybody feels that way, but I've always felt that way. I hate boredom. I truly do, and learning and discovery and trying out new things, even if they're hard, is what makes me get up in the morning excited for the next day. I don't know how you could live without it. And I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just because I've always been that way. I just now, but it comes with a. It's not like everything's perfect. The other issue is there are those days where, in weeks and months, where you're having to slog through regular work and there's nothing new and exciting going on. But it's a balance. As a bartender, I can think of about 5 cocktails to use that bourbon honey. There's a guy I know in Kentucky, and he is actually using whiskey barrels after they've been drained to store honey in them, and it will pull the alcohol and stuff into the honey. I'm really not an alcohol person, but I thought that was an interesting concept. It's interesting. Cayman, the real reason you are so successful is that you don't accept that you don't know what you don't know. I think I know what you're talking about, Hi-Fi. Thanks, Hank. I appreciate it. Well, willingness to try new things. And for those of you who are here earlier on, when I sent out all the emails to the kids who were accepted and the 26 young men and women who I'm so excited to meet at Hive Life Conference, they got full rides, full meals, t-shirts, the whole 9 yards. One thing I told them is there were parents that told me their kids did not fill that out because they were too embarrassed to do the YouTube video. Everyone had to do a YouTube video about why they liked bees. That was the requirement. And especially if you've never done one before, that can be quite daunting, especially when you're a young person. Not everybody feels the same way about this. Some people have no shame. And anyways, but I told them, I'm like, you know what? Doing hard things, doing uncomfortable things, that's what gets you into, situations like getting to go to a conference for free. um, because others said, nope, not going to do it, out of my comfort zone. And that's okay. That's fine. But those kids that went ahead and did that, and I could tell some of those kids that did that YouTube video, they were not comfortable. But I thought what we're going for with that youth program is to find the young men and women who are going to be tomorrow's awesome beekeepers at the hobby, pro level, all that stuff. So, in order to identify the best of the best, shouldn't they have to at least make somewhat of an attempt at something hard? Anyways, I thought that was really interesting. And man, I'm so excited. A couple of those girls and guys on there, man, uh, I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. Super excited. Natalie Summers might have some competition if she doesn't watch it. I hope Natalie's watching this right now, just so that she knows that she can't treat me like she does. I might find another young guy or young girl to hang out with that will treat me nice instead of her talking about how short I am. I'm still about that much taller than she is. All right. Well, everybody, I told Laurel it'll be about 2 hours. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. We've done our updates. We've done our stuff. Thank you so much for coming on again, being a part of this community. For those of you who are able to come to the Hive Life Conference, I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to show you the hard work that we have put into this conference. And if you come to the past, in the past, you will see a totally different conference. Well, it'll be a similar experience of fun and cool, but it's going to be way more awesome. So thank you for your patience with so many things and your willingness to hang out with us when we do these live chats. It's always so much fun. Thanks for letting us into your lives. And we look forward to meeting you and talking to you in the future. Thanks for watching this video.